Let me tell you something, and I want you to listen real close, because a lot of people get confused out here. They think love is about what a man says. Baby, a man will say anything when he's trying to get something. Words are cheap. Actions cost something. And when a man starts paying real costs, time, effort, pride, sacrifice, that's when you know where you stand. Let me tell you something real, and I want you to hear this with your heart, not just your ears. When a man is serious about you, you will not be confused. Confusion is not love. Confusion is what happens when someone doesn't know what they want or doesn't want to give what they know you deserve. A man who is already yours understands that consistency is not optional, it's required. He doesn't show up today and disappear tomorrow. He doesn't give you effort when it's convenient and silence when it's not. He shows up because that's who he decided to be for you. Consistency is a man's loudest language. Anybody can be charming for a week. Anybody can say the right thing on a good day. But it takes intention to be the same man when he's tired, stressed, busy, or tempted. When a man keeps calling, keeps checking on you, keeps showing interest even when life is pulling him in 10 different directions, that's not accident, that's priority. A man will always make time for what matters to him. If you matter, time will appear. And listen closely because this part is important. A consistent man doesn't need reminders. You're not managing him. You're not teaching him how to treat you. He already decided that you're worth the effort. That means he communicates. He doesn't leave you guessing. If he's busy, he tells you. If he can't see you, he explains. He understands that disappearing creates doubt, and doubt creates distance. A man who wants you close won't push you away with silence. Consistency also shows up in how he treats you emotionally. He doesn't switch personalities. He's not loving one minute and cold the next. He doesn't make you feel safe today and insecure tomorrow. His energy stays steady because his intentions are steady. When a man is unsure about you, his behavior will be unstable. When he's sure, his behavior settles down. Now, let me say this clearly because a lot of people miss it. Consistency is not about perfection. It's about reliability. He might have flaws. He might make mistakes. But you always know where you stand. You're not questioning your value every night. You're not replaying conversations trying to decode his tone. Peace comes from knowing a man's actions line up with his words. A consistent man understands responsibility. He knows that every action sends a message. So he chooses actions that say, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. He doesn't keep you in emotional suspense. He doesn't treat you like an option he'll get back to later. He treats you like a decision he already made. And here's the truth a lot of people don't want to accept. When a man wants to be with you, effort feels natural to him. He doesn't see consistency as pressure. He sees it as protection for the connection, for the relationship for you. If a man says consistency is too much, what he's really saying is commitment is too much. So if you're watching a man show up again and again without being chased, without being threatened, without being reminded of your worth, understand what you're seeing. You're not seeing coincidence. You're seeing choice. And a man who chooses you consistently has already made up his mind. Let me break this down for you because this is where a lot of people get it twisted. A man will always reveal what he truly feels through what he invests, not what he promises, not what he talks about when he's in a good mood, but what he gives when nobody is watching. Time, effort, and priorities never lie. If a man is already yours, you won't be fighting for a spot in his life. You'll already have one. A man who is serious makes room. He rearranges things. He doesn't squeeze you in only when he has nothing else going on. You don't get the leftovers of his day. You get intentional time, real attention, and follow through. And that doesn't mean he drops everything in his life. It means he places you where you belong. When something matters, it gets scheduled. When someone matters, they get protected time. Watch how he uses his energy. A man who is invested doesn't show up half-hearted. He listens. He remembers what you said. He notices your mood before you even explain it. That takes effort, and effort is not accidental. Effort is proof that you live in his mind even when you're not physically present. If he's mentally with you, emotionally with you, and choosing to show it, that's ownership and action. Priorities tell the clearest story. When a man's priorities change, his behavior changes too. If he starts turning down distractions, setting boundaries, and making choices that align with a future instead of just a moment, pay attention. That means he's thinking beyond himself. A man who is only thinking about today will act one way. A man who is thinking about tomorrow will act completely different. And listen, a man who truly values you doesn't make you compete. You're not fighting his friends, his phone, his past, or his habits for attention. He decides where you stand, and once he decides, his actions fall in line. That's why you don't have to demand respect from the right man. He offers it freely because he knows what it costs to lose you. Time is a powerful currency. A man may not always have money, but he always has time choices. Where he goes, who he talks to, and how long he stays somewhere are all decisions. When he consistently chooses to spend his time with you, to check on you, to be present with you, that's not convenience. That's commitment showing itself quietly. Effort also shows up when things aren't easy. Anybody can give attention when everything feels light and fun. But when a man still shows up during stress, conflict, or uncertainty, that's when you know his investment is real. He doesn't disappear at the first sign of difficulty. He leans in instead of pulling away. A man who is already yours doesn't need to be convinced to try. He doesn't need constant motivation to show care. He understands that what he builds with you requires maintenance. And maintenance only happens when someone plans to keep what they have. So when you're trying to understand a man's intentions, stop listening for grand statements and start watching where his time goes, how much effort he puts in, and what he places at the top of his list. Because a man's priorities will always tell you exactly where you stand. Let me say this plain and clear, because this is where real connection either grows or completely falls apart. When a man is truly invested, he creates emotional safety without even realizing he's doing it. You're not walking on eggshells around him. You're not afraid to speak your truth. You're not shrinking yourself just to keep his attention. A man who is already yours makes you feel secure enough to be fully yourself. Emotional safety is not about big romantic gestures or dramatic moments. It's about how he responds when you're vulnerable. When you share your fears, your past, your worries, he doesn't dismiss them, laugh them off, or turn them into ammunition later. He listens. He tries to understand, and even if he doesn't have all the answers, he shows you that your feelings matter. That right there is a man who sees you as more than a moment. A man who provides emotional safety doesn't use your emotions against you. He doesn't manipulate, guilt trip, or threaten to leave whenever things get uncomfortable. He understands that disagreements are part of connection, not a reason to run from it. So instead of shutting down or exploding, he communicates. He might need time, but he doesn't disappear. He reassures you through his actions that conflict does not equal abandonment. Pay attention to how you feel after interacting with him. Do you feel calmer or more anxious? Do you feel heard or dismissed? A man who is serious about you brings peace, not constant emotional turbulence. He doesn't keep you in a cycle of highs and lows. His presence stabilizes rather than destabilizes your emotions. That's not boring, that's healthy. Emotional safety also shows up in accountability. When he messes up, he owns it. No excuses, no blame shifting. He understands that taking responsibility strengthens trust. A man who is already yours would rather fix the problem than protect his ego. He knows that ego can cost him the connection he values. Another sign is consistency in emotional tone. You don't have to guess which version of him you're getting. He doesn't punish you with silence. He doesn't withdraw affection as a control tactic. He stays emotionally available even when things aren't perfect. That level of maturity doesn't come from fear of losing you. It comes from valuing you. A man who offers emotional safety respects your boundaries. He doesn't pressure you to move faster than you're comfortable with. He doesn't dismiss your limits as overreactions. He understands that trust grows at the speed of safety. And because he plans to stay, he's patient with the process. Here's something important a lot of people overlook. Emotional safety is protection. It's a man saying, without words, you don't have to armor up with me. When a man creates a space where you can rest emotionally, where you don't have to defend your feelings, that's deep commitment. He's not just attracted to you, he's invested in your well-being. So if you notice that you can breathe around him, speak freely, express emotions without fear, and trust that he's not going to vanish when things get real, understand what you're experiencing. That level of emotional safety doesn't come from casual interest. It comes from a man who has already decided you matter. Let me tell you something, because this right here separates curiosity from commitment. When a man is serious about you, he doesn't keep you hidden. He doesn't act unsure in public and confident in private. A man who is already yours makes his position clear without needing a spotlight. He lets the world know where he stands because he's comfortable with his choice. A man who claims you publicly isn't doing it for applause. He's doing it for clarity. He doesn't want misunderstandings, competition, or confusion. His friends know who you are. His people know where his loyalty is. Not because you demanded it, but because he volunteered it. When a man introduces you with confidence instead of hesitation, that's not accidental. That's intention showing up. And listen, claiming you doesn't always mean social media posts and captions. It means consistency in how he speaks about you when you're not around. It means he doesn't entertain disrespect toward you. It means he shuts down conversations that shouldn't exist. A man who is already yours protects your name, even when you're not there to hear it. A man who claims you doesn't keep one foot in and one foot out. He doesn't act single when he's outside and committed when he's with you. His behavior doesn't change depending on the audience. That kind of alignment only happens when a man has decided he's not shopping anymore. He's chosen. Pay attention to how comfortable he is acknowledging you in real life. Does he invite you into his world or keep you separate from it? A man who plans to stay brings you closer to his circle instead of keeping you on the edge. He wants the important people in his life to see you, know you, and understand your role. That's not pressure, that's pride. A man who claims you also stands up for you. He doesn't let jokes slide that cross a line. He doesn't let others question your place. He addresses things directly because he understands that silence can look like agreement. When a man defends your position without you asking, that's ownership in action. There's also something powerful about how a man speaks your name. When he says it with certainty, with respect, without lowering his voice, that tells you everything. He's not hiding. He's not unsure. He's not waiting to see if something better comes along. He's already planted his flag. And let me say this, because some people get it wrong. A man who avoids claiming you publicly isn't protecting the relationship. He's protecting his options. A man who wants to keep doors open will keep you behind closed doors. A man who has chosen you closes unnecessary doors without hesitation. Public acknowledgement is not about validation. It's about alignment. It's a man saying, "This is my choice and I stand on it." When a man is comfortable being seen with you, associated with you, and known for choosing you, that's not casual interest. That's commitment without needing a speech. So when you see a man who doesn't hide you, doesn't hesitate, doesn't switch up depending on who's watching, understand what you're witnessing. You're seeing a man who isn't unsure. And a man who isn't unsure has already made his decision. Let me tell you something important, because this is where intention turns into responsibility. When a man is truly invested, he doesn't just enjoy your presence. He feels accountable for your well-being. Protection and responsibility are not about control or dominance. They're about care. A man who is already yours doesn't ask, "What can I get away with?" He asks, "What's my role here?" Protection starts with awareness. He notices what makes you uncomfortable, what drains you, what threatens your peace. And without making a big show of it, he adjusts. He steps in when something feels off. He doesn't leave you to handle everything alone if it's within his power to help. That instinct doesn't come from obligation. It comes from emotional ownership. A responsible man thinks ahead. He considers consequences. He understands that his actions affect you, and because of that, he moves differently. He's careful with his words, mindful of his decisions, and intentional about how he treats you. He knows that trust is fragile, and he doesn't play with things that can break it. Protection also shows up in how he handles external threats. He doesn't expose you to unnecessary drama, chaos, or disrespect. He sets boundaries with people, situations, and habits that could harm the connection. A man who is serious about you doesn't let his past, his ego, or his impulses put your emotional safety at risk. And listen closely, because this part matters. Protection is not about fighting every battle for you. It's about standing with you. He empowers you instead of overpowering you. He supports your strength instead of trying to replace it. A man who is already yours wants you secure, not dependent. Responsibility shows in follow-through. When he says he'll do something, he does it. When he commits to a plan, he honors it. He understands that reliability builds security. He doesn't leave you guessing or cleaning up messes he created. He takes ownership, even when it's inconvenient. A man who feels responsible for you doesn't disappear during hard times. He doesn't abandon the connection when things require effort. Stress doesn't make him vanish. Challenges don't make him retreat. Instead, he leans in because he understands that commitment is proven under pressure, not comfort. There's also financial and practical responsibility, not in the sense of control, but in awareness. He's mindful of how decisions affect stability. He doesn't make reckless choices that could impact your future together. He may not have everything figured out, but he's thinking long-term instead of living moment to moment. Protection includes emotional defense. He doesn't allow others to speak poorly about you. He doesn't entertain conversations that disrespect the relationship. He guards the connection like something valuable because to him it is valuable. That level of defense doesn't come from insecurity, it comes from certainty. Here's something people don't talk about enough. A man who is already yours takes responsibility for his growth. He works on himself so he doesn't become a burden to you. He addresses his flaws instead of expecting you to tolerate them. He understands that loving you means becoming better, not asking you to accept less. And understand this truth. Promises are easy. Responsibility is heavy. A man who carries responsibility without complaining is a man who plans to stay. He's not auditioning. He's not testing. He's building. So when you see a man who protects your peace, considers your safety, stands with you in difficulty, and takes ownership of his role in your life, recognize what that means. You're not dealing with potential. You're dealing with commitment in motion. Let me explain this in a way that really lands, because this is one of the clearest signs a man has already chosen you. When a man starts planning with you instead of planning around you, his mindset has shifted. You are no longer an add-on to his life. You are part of the structure. His decisions begin to include your presence, your needs, and your future, not because you ask, but because it feels natural to him. A man who plans with you doesn't make big moves in isolation. He talks things through. He asks your opinion. He considers how choices will affect both of you. That doesn't mean he loses his independence. It means he gains perspective. He understands that partnership requires alignment, not just attraction. You'll notice it in small ways first. He checks dates before committing to plans. He thinks about timing. He factors you into his schedule without being reminded. When a man starts doing that, it's because he already sees you as part of his everyday life, not just a weekend option. Planning with you also shows emotional investment. He shares goals, not just stories. He talks about where he's headed, what he wants to build, and how he's working toward it. He's not vague. He's not mysterious. He opens the door to his future and lets you see inside. A man who doesn't plan to stay doesn't invite anyone into his long-term vision. Another important sign is that he doesn't make decisions that undermine the relationship. He doesn't agree to things that would consistently exclude you or create distance without discussion. If something affects the relationship, he brings it to you. That's respect. That's teamwork. That's someone who understands that requires communication. A man who plans with you values stability. He's thinking about consistency, not just excitement. He understands that real connection is built through shared direction. So instead of moving randomly, he moves intentionally. That kind of mindset doesn't come from casual interest. It comes from commitment. Pay attention to how he handles uncertainty. When changes come up, does he talk to you or disappear? A man who is already yours doesn't leave you out of the process. He understands that silence creates distance. So even when he doesn't have all the answers, he keeps you informed. That's emotional maturity. Planning with you also means he's making room for compromise. He's no longer only asking, what works for me? He's asking, what works for us? That shift is powerful. It shows he's not guarding his life against you. He's opening it up to include you. And here's something subtle but important. A man who plans with you doesn't rush you or pressure you. He respects your pace because he's not afraid of time. He's not trying to lock you in quickly out of fear. He's confident that the connection is growing naturally. That patience is a sign of security. Long-term planning doesn't always sound dramatic. Sometimes it's simple conversations about logistics, routines, or shared responsibilities. But those conversations matter because they show he's thinking ahead with you in mind. He's not living as if you're temporary. When a man starts planning holidays, responsibilities, and goals with you, he's mentally committing. He's not testing the waters anymore. He's building direction. So if you notice that his decisions consistently include you, that your presence is assumed rather than questioned, understand what's happening. A man who plans with you has already placed you in his future. And men don't do that unless they've already decided you belong there.